to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes. Oh my, that was a miss. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about charities today. We're not going to talk about politics because sometimes when you're dealing, we have nonprofit organizations, we don't want to take any risks of them having someone saying, oh, they have a political affiliation. So tonight is kind of apolitical, but you know I got a rant. There's no way I could ever have a show without there being a rant. But we're going to talk specifically about some bills that we have seen in our state house. And this is a call to action for all of you folk who always ask me, what can I do to be more involved? Here is your call to action. All right. There are a slew of anti-trans bills that are running rampant through our state house. HB 1458, HB 1456, HB 1503, and Senate Bill SB 224. These bills are running through the state house. They are birth certificate bills. They're bathroom bills. But all they really are some really insecure people who have decided, because they don't understand what it is to be trans, they want to make life difficult for those tax-paying transgender citizens. Now, if you're like me, that should be unacceptable. So I'm going to need, if you go to my Facebook page, there's a number for you to call for, let me see, who was the guy's name? Let's just look that up real quick. Because somebody told me he was an Elvis impersonator. There seems to be a lot of that running around. All right, so we need to get on Representative Bruce Borders. His office number is 1-800-382-9841. And let's get on him about these anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ plus bills that he is authoring. And then, of course, there's a Senate bill being introduced by Senator Dennis Kraus. If you live in District 45, if you live House District 45 or Senate District 14, these are your people. Get them in check. And call your state rep and your Senate rep to say, hey, I don't like these bills. They are harmful listen, these are bills that don't do anything to help anybody. These are bills that are just designed to make life difficult for people who are different. And honestly, it's sickening. And these GOP folk keep telling us that they want small government. We want government out of our lives. La 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 la. But every time you turn around, they're writing more and more bills that inhibit the progress of somebody who's on a trans journey. It's already a difficult enough journey. Why are we complicating it? So it seems like they only want government big enough to be inside of a woman's uterus or a transgender person's life. Get out. Get out. Stop messing with people. Quit bothering people. Let them be who they are. Got nothing to do with you. Drives me nuts. All right, one more bill. This is an education bill that was brought to my attention by one Miss Teresa Kendall, who ran for office this past year. She wants to highlight House Bill 1005. Now, this law, if this bill turns into a law, would allow private schools to receive 90% of the amount of money that public schools get per student. Additionally, it opens up voucher money to homeschooling and allows families to make as much as $234,000 to get tax breaks. Now, I know you guys are like, well, if a person wants to send their kid to a private school, why shouldn't they be able to send their kid to the private school? And why shouldn't the money follow them, blah, blah, blah. Well, see, school choice isn't really a thing. Like if you live in Lawrence County, or you live in Cass County, or you live in one of these smaller rural counties, there's not a lot of choice. The only school you have to send your kid to is the one that is incorporated by the county. So they still have to operate these schools at the same amount of money, or I'm sorry, that they have the same occupancy, but they don't have as much money. So they are trying to do more with less. because they're sending money to people who have made the choice, because we always had choice to where to send our kids. They've made the choice to send their children to private schools. Public money should not be used for private schools. I'm sorry. It shouldn't be. I don't understand how we're comfortable with private, letting private industry do what they want to do, deregulated and all of that. But then you want to take my tax dollars that is supposed to be used for public education so we can make that system the best it can be and give it to private schools. Send your kid where you want to. But just like Department of Public Works, you don't get to say, well, I want my tax dollars for snow shoveling to just go down my street. You got to shovel the whole city. That's what public dollars are for. It's for the public good. So leave public education money alone. These Republicans, they kill me. I'm sorry, Vicki. My bad. Some of these bills are just really, really bad. All right. Listen, one of the things that, like I said, I wanted to do this year, since we don't have any elections, is I want to use this platform that you guys so graciously have afforded me to talk about organizations around our state who are doing amazing things in our community. Bloomington, y'all been in the news for the wrong reasons lately. There's this idea that maybe there's not a lot of love for people who are struggling, but I'm here to tell you that's not true. The Honorable Nicole Bolden invited me to a community kitchen fundraiser, probably 2 years ago. And up until the pandemic, I really looked forward to going back to their fundraiser. So I wanted to highlight Monroe Community Kitchen because they are the other side of that conversation. They are people who are actively doing things to help people in your Monroe County, Bloomington community who are struggling. Y'all, welcome to my show, Turn Left, the executive director of Monroe Community Kitchen, Miss Vicki Pierce. Vicki, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. You guys are doing amazing work. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
So I'm Vicki Pierce. I actually originally come from Lawrence County, and then, came to school at IU and then went away to grad school and then ended up coming back to the area. And for 25 plus years now, I've actually been in social services here in Monroe County. I was at Monroe County United Ministries for 8 years, and I've been here at the kitchen now. I'm rolling up on year 17 in a couple months. So, wow. It's just always been a part of who I am. I've been very grateful to work in positions where I feel good at the end of the day, even a hard day. I'm proud of what we do and the way we do it, and the people that I get to do it with. And so that makes, it makes every day worthwhile.
I think that's great. I think that community service spirit should be in all of us, especially those that are seeking public office. This is where it all starts. It's about rolling your sleeves up and being in the community. So give us a little history about Monroe Community Kitchen.
So Community Kitchen actually started in 1983. That particular winter was a difficult winter. The weather was bad. The economy was crappy. And so there was a committee that formed. Funnily enough, the name of the committee, the official name of the committee was the Get Through the Winter Committee.
I love
it. And so their plan was really to sort of look at what services they could get together to help those folks, especially the low-income population, get through that rough winter. And so one of the things that came of it was opening a congregate meal site. And so we originally opened 2 days a week in what is now Monroe County United Ministries. And so at the time was the Christian Center. They started serving in 1983, 2 days a week, and then they went to 3 days a week and then went to more. They moved from that location to McDowell Baptist Church, which is on South Rogers, just up the road from us. And we were in the basement of McDowell for a little while before we worked out an arrangement with Perry Township. And we were at 917 South Rogers Street for quite a long time. We moved down here to 1515 South Rogers, and bought our own building and finally had room for all of the things we were doing in one space. And we moved down here in 2012. And so, it's been, I've been here now 17 years, so it's been really interesting to see the organization grow from where we were that many years ago to where we are now. But it's been a real integral part of the community now for decades, and I feel like we really focus and take seriously our role as sort of one of the core and central components of the community safety net.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, and the long-term commitment to the community is amazing, and then your commitment to the organization is amazing. Talk about some of the services that you actually provide to the community.
So we are what people would traditionally call a soup kitchen, in the sense that we provide meals to anyone in need, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. So beyond that, what I often tell folks to do is take whatever sort of mental image soup kitchen creates for you and then dump it out of your head and throw it away. Because traditionally what people think of a soup kitchen is really bad coffee, lame soup and stale bread kind of thing. And we, nothing could be further from the truth in terms of what we provide. We provide a meal prepared from scratch every day. Here at our main location, we have a main entree, which always has the protein component. Most of the days that is a meat component in there, but we do vegetarian typically at least one day a week. And so there's always a protein. Oftentimes the protein will have a starch in it. So it's often a sort of casserole or stew based, some sort of, meat and veggies, maybe starch too. And then we have a side vegetable. In addition to that, we have green salad and fruit every day. And then, coffee, tea, milk, juice, whatever. We have that food here at our main location, which traditionally is a sit-down facility. It's not right now, but traditionally it is. Right. And then we have 2 satellite facilities where we take that same food and we serve it in carry-out styles from 2 other locations that we just don't have dining rooms. And so that's really the backbone of who we are and what we do. That's our central program. But it actually ends up being, our main location ends up only being about 35% of what we do. Okay. 65% of what we do is preparing food here and taking it out to people where they already are. So in addition to our satellite sites, we focus on vulnerable populations, children, seniors, folks who are chronically ill. And so we work with Area 10 Agency on Aging for some home delivery programs. We work with IU Health Positive Link for a home delivery program for folks who are HIV positive and financially need that assistance. We work with the school system and youth programs to provide either after school meals or snacks, or our Backpack Buddies program, weekend food for local school children whose families may be struggling with their food needs over the weekend. And then we run a program in the summer, our summer lunch program, where we go into 11 different low-income neighborhoods and provide a lunch 5 days a week for kids. So, all in all, what people tend to think about when they think about us is our location and seeing people coming in and out of here at dinner time. But that's really, while it is central to what we do, and it would be the last program we would ever have to cut, it is a small part of what we do, really.
That's actually pretty interesting because the fact that you guys have already started your own food delivery, your own DoorDash is exciting, especially, when you're talking about older folks who don't necessarily drive or can't drive or are special needs, something of that nature. What made you guys decide to do the delivery service aspect?
So when I came to the kitchen in 2004, there was already a focus from the board on vulnerable populations. And the 2 at the time they were most focused on, that we've continued to focus a lot of attention on, are children and seniors. Mm-hmm. And so, in wanting to reach more seniors, we of course contacted Area 10 because they're the folks in our world who are the experts on what low-income seniors need. And so we talked to them and found out that while they have multiple nutrition programs, both meal delivery and pantry delivery and congregate sites, that they had people on a waiting list for food. And it sort of baffled me that you would have seniors. So these are not people right in their 30s or 40s that got, in theory, lots of years left. People in their 60s, late 60s, 70s, and 80s on a waiting list for food. baffling. So that's where our home delivery program in conjunction with Area 10 started. It's like, okay, let's help alleviate that need. Like, how can we eliminate that waiting list? And so that's when we developed that program. We did a similar thing early in 2020 with Meals on Wheels. Had a conversation with Carrie, and they had multiple low-income seniors on their waiting list because they didn't have the food support to be able to make that work. So we took on an entire Meals on Wheels route and provided food to over 30 seniors 5 days a week for several months until they were able to incorporate everybody else into their other existing food routes. Right now in our Ellettsville location, we've been working with Area 10 to sort of identify some neighborhood captains in some of those low income apartment complexes for seniors in Ellettsville, of which there are several. And transportation for folks in their 70s and 80s, right? That can be an issue, especially in the winter. And so we've worked out a situation where we're identifying neighborhood captains who can come and pick up food from our Ellettsville location for lots of people in that apartment complex and then take it back to them so that they don't have to get out every day.
I love it. Neighborhood captains. You also
Absolutely.
You also mentioned the need for services with our young people. You talk about food insecurity amongst our young people. How did you guys get tapped into students who may not, be get the only good meal that they get maybe at school, and then sending home a weekend supplies? How did that come about?
So that came about because as a United Way agency member, we have always attended United Way Agency Directors Association meetings monthly. Well, they used to be monthly. They're not anymore, but monthly. And my good friend Gary Playford was the social services director at MCCSC at the time. And just one day I was talking to Gary. A board member had brought this article. I think it came from like the Parade magazine in the paper. But brought this article about this program in Arizona that folks were doing, which is what our Backpack Buddies program is modeled off of, where they were, taking food and giving it to kids for the weekend. And so I went and talked to Gary, and I was like, hey, I know that our free and reduced numbers are significantly high here. So like, is this something that, that might be helpful, and how do I do that? And so Gary and I, over a series of conversations, talked about that, and he thought it was an exciting idea, and he got me hooked up with the social worker at the time at Fairview, because of course that's our school with the highest free and reduced population. And so, that program was sort of born out of that conversation. One of the things that I love about the kitchen and I love about social service agencies in Monroe County is that we really do, not completely, but we really do, for the most part, work well together. And so I love the fact that, if I start listing our collaborations in the community, the list is like, crazy long, because we have such a wealth of expertise and services here, and we work so well together. And so, that's how that program started. That's how, the Feed Our Future program, where we provide meals and snacks to youth and after school programs, working with the Boys and Girls Clubs, previously working with Girls Inc., with Rhino's Youth Center. We work with New Hope Family Shelter. We work with the Rise at Middleway House, just identifying, okay, we know that kids are a vulnerable population. Who has the kids? Who has the kids that we want to reach? Those folks that are low income, their families are food insecure, they're at risk. Like, how do we reach out to them and get the nutrition to them that they need where they already are? And so that's been sort of the way we've approached a lot of our programming.
I love it. I love it. So one of the things, again, Bloomington has been in the news, and on social media about some of the communities that are distressed at the parks. Do you see some of that community coming into your community kitchen?
We do see some of those folks. Oftentimes one of the things that people sort of assume about us that is not always accurate is that we serve primarily folks who are homeless. And that's not really the case.
Okay.
Traditionally, so for 2019, I can tell you that 72% of the people we served were kids, 10% were seniors, and 14% had experienced homelessness sometime in the 6 months previous or during when we saw them. Now, in 2020, that number shifted for a variety of reasons, but so traditionally, that population of folks experiencing homelessness is a small portion of who we see.
Okay.
What we tend to see in terms of folks who are experiencing homelessness is that they tend to be those folks who are short-term experiencing homelessness. So not the folks that a lot of people would think of as the chronic folks living in the woods, who have been, living outside for sometimes years. They tend to be folks who are, sort of in a crisis, who are working their way back out. We do serve the one of the local homeless shelters, Friends Place. We serve dinner every day to them, and have for decades. So we serve those folks, but we don't get a whole lot of those folks necessarily coming to us
Okay.
unless they're in a short-term crisis or they're connected. A lot of those folks with more chronic issues, they sort of figure out how to handle all of those issues on their own. Having dealt with that population at more of a distance, but off and on for 25 years, I've learned that a lot of times those folks build their own community. And they've got other ways to access food and resources, and they share those probably a lot better than some of the rest of us.
Hello.
And they don't reach out to us always as often.
Okay. So now you're a soup kitchen. That means you serve food. Where do
We
you
do.
get your food from?
So our food comes from a variety of places. Obviously, we do get some government commodities. We use the Hoosier Hills Food Bank extensively in every way possible, meaning we get food from their meal share program that they rescue from dining rooms, like at IU and restaurants. Um, in addition, we're able to shop at the food bank, so they work to leverage food from food companies and
Mhm.
corporations and get it into our community, and so we're able to access that. We get regular food donations. People, go to the grocery store. It's happened a lot. It's happened a lot during the pandemic. Somebody puts in their click list order, right? And they go to pick it up, and it's like, oh, I asked for this, but I got this. I asked for this little ham thing, and I got this giant ham. I don't need it. And so, people bring food donations here to us on a regular basis. People hold food drives for us, and then we buy a lot of food. For our kids programs in particular, we're insistent on whole grains, fresh fruit, milk, vegetables, fresh vegetables. And so we have to buy a lot of that because we don't get the quantity and the uniformity donated that we need for those programs. And so, we do buy a lot as well. So it's a variety of sources for us.
I love it. Now you talked about how there was prepared food. You talked about you come in. It's not what you think with bad coffee. This is some really good food. Where do you get your chefs?
So, they kind of come to us. I don't know that we've ever had um, someone in the kitchen who actually was a trained chef.
Hmm.
But we have a lot of folks who've worked in a lot of kitchens, some who even had no kitchen experience before they came to us, but were here long enough to work their way up to cooking some and then cooking more. Um, but it's a really different kind of experience when we have had folks who've come from restaurants where they actually cooked much in a restaurant. They have to really adjust the way they approach that. We don't set a menu out in advance and then buy all the food for that and make sure we've got it all and prepare it just the way you would want to prepare it. It's kind of like at home in some ways. It's like walk into the pantry and see what you got and what needs to be used, and make that work. And so one of the things that I have always found really impressive about our staff is just their ability to do just that. It's like we have food donations of this and this and this. We've got this protein. What can I make with this? This is what I can do with it. And then prepare that for 400 people. It's a real talent, that I think that they have, and it's really fun for me having been here this long. It's been really fun for me when I see someone who comes in and has very little cooking experience, sort of work their way up to cooking multiple days a week. And watching staff who've been here longer sort of train them along the way and help them get ready and be encouraging of that. It's really a fun thing that people outside of here really wouldn't necessarily get to see and wouldn't think about. It's sort of that we have a backdoor window to here. It's kind of cool.
And so, when you say it's when obviously not pandemic season, when you guys can have folks come in, I assume that you have servers and people that volunteer to make sure that folks who come in feel comfortable and welcome and warm.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things we miss the most right now is the dining room. When the governor issued the stay-at-home order, We closed the dining room and we have not been able to reopen it. It's with our population, there's so many things that get given to and then taken away from them. We did not want to open the dining room late in the summer and then have to close it again this fall. And we knew that's what would happen. So we've just left it closed. We miss that because one of the things that's always been really true here is that, our name is Community Kitchen, and that community part of it is really real. Both in the sense of our volunteers and the community that gets created in the kitchen when they're preparing a meal and serving it, but also the community in the dining room. Two things are true of folks that come to eat here on a regular basis. They learn to care about one another, and you know that, and you learn that because you'll hear someone say to someone, not even at their table, at a couple tables away, "Hey, how's your niece?" Because they know that they've talked to them enough to know that person's niece has been ill or whatever, and how's your dog doing, or whatever. So there really is that community, and they miss one another. So if you notice that a regular hasn't been here for a while, patrons are already talking to each other. "Hey, have you seen so and so? Have you heard from her?" And they'll ask us, "Have you heard from her?" They really genuinely do care about each other and build that community. The other thing that's true, and of course, as the director, is one of my favorite things about how that cohesiveness gets built, excuse me, in the dining room, is that when someone is not necessarily following the rules or acting the way they should, it is almost always a patron who calls it out before we have the chance to.
Wow.
It's almost always a patron. And there's one patron in particular. She's an older lady who is not afraid to stand up and say, "Hey, we don't act like that here. You need to take that somewhere else. We don't act like that here. We're polite to each other. And if you can't do that, you need to go." We've always felt like we expect a certain level of behavior from folks here, and we almost always get it. I'm proud of the fact that I would tell folks we don't have to call the police here more often than once every year or two, because most issues that we have, we can handle, and we can all come to some sort of resolution and go on our way, because folks really they take that community with us and with one another very seriously. Cool thing about volunteers here, obviously we use volunteers. We use them twice a day for 2-hour shift during prep and a 3-hour shift during serving. We use 8 volunteers in the prep shift and 7 during the serving shift. And it's such a great, honestly, a blessing to me to watch people who volunteer together, who never knew each other before they came in here, and volunteer together, become like really, really great friends. To the point where they end up doing things together outside of here or whatever. And so when we sent our volunteers home in March, it only took about a week and a half before we were all kind of tired of seeing one another and really missing those folks. Both because we have some relationships with them, but just we're used to seeing a variety of people and a lot of different energy, and we were stuck with just one another. So we welcomed them back with open arms at the beginning of July, and sort of have worked back up to a volunteer force that, we learned during the pandemic, without volunteers, we have to have an extra 4 staff people a day, all day long, to get done what we do. So, to be able to save that cost, the volunteers not only provide us a lot of just personal experience and warmth in our service and in our time together, but they also just save us a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
Just the value, both financially and interpersonally, that they provide is it's more than we can really quantify.
I love it. So now there's always, obviously you have to do fundraisers and food drives and things of that nature. I ain't gonna lie. I love the biannual fundraiser that you all have. Could you, and you know what I'm talking about. I forget what it's called, but I love it because I get to taste food that I haven't tasted before. And there's some cocktails to go with it too. Talk about the biannual fundraiser that I've attended.
Okay, so actually, they're even more often than that. They're actually quarterly.
Quarterly.
So typically, we do one each season. We do a 3-course all-inclusive brunch, and we do those on a Sunday because that's the only day of the week that we're not open. And we do those inside of our building. And so for us, the real motivation initially for that, in addition to raising money, was just to get people in our building, see what the building looks like. There for a lot of folks who don't have much access with people or much interaction with folks in need or with, service agencies, sort of have a little trepidation about what that means and what that looks like. And we're proud of our facility and how clean we keep it and how much we work to keep it looking as close to new all the time as we can. And so we're happy to get people in to see what those donation dollars really do. And so so we have these brunches quarterly. The way we do this is that we get local chefs. Sometimes they're from restaurants, sometimes they're folks from our board who are chefs, or just friends of ours. But we have chefs we get at least 3 different chefs at each brunch who will come up with an entree that they want to make. Sometimes there's a theme. Sometimes it's just making sure the food all works together, but there'll be an appetizer, which has at least usually 2 options, occasionally more, a main entree, and normally there are 2 options. Sometimes there's been 3, and then a dessert option. And so what happens is that the ticket costs you $50. You choose either 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. to come for brunch because we have 2 seatings. You come, you get 3 courses, and in addition to that food, Cardinal Spirits comes and they actually they come up with create cocktails that sort of fit with each course. And so again, if we have a theme, they stick with that theme, but they know what the course and what the food options are in each course, and they come up with a drink that would pair well with that. And so for your $50, you get the camaraderie of 7 other people at your table, 3-course brunch, I guess, not dinner, brunch, and 3 amazing cocktails. It's great. We make about $5,000 each at those brunches 4 times a year, but it's just a lot of fun, right? I mean, it's, first of all, people are coming together over food. Secondarily, they're drinking. And so not enough to get sloppy and gross and annoying, but enough to be happy and relaxed and meeting new people. That's one of the most fun things about that event is that I get to do the seating arrangements, right? And I'm like, oh, I know this person, I know this person. They don't know each other. They're going to sit together. And I get to seat people when they come in groups smaller than 8. I get to seat them together, and then it's fun to get to watch them, interact and get to know one another. So it's sort of a real social event for folks who come because you do get to meet new people. You get to try new foods that you probably haven't tried before. You get to have some amazing drinks, and it all supports the kitchen because most of the food for that is donated, all the alcohol is donated, and all the staff time is donated. It's almost 100% profit for us. And so we love those events. We miss them. We're anxious to get back to them as soon as that is safe again. But yeah, that's what we like to do.
Well, I got a confession to make. 2020 was going to be the year that I was bringing my indie fam down to participate in this in the community kitchen because my family is so like close knit. We love helping each other, but we also like to eat. And so I was looking forward to bringing my indie crew down with me to a couple of those community kitchens. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for us. But no, I got a whole group of women I'm bringing with me when we are able to partake in that. Because I'm telling you, the food is amazing. I mean,
it is amazing.
Oh, gosh. So, okay, I've actually included the link to the website on this broadcast so that people can obviously go on the site, visit the site. There's a huge donate button on there. And as much as you need food and money and things like that, tell us what else you would need from people who want to support your organization.
One of the things right now that we're sort of focusing a lot of energy and attention on is engagement. And so for us, that means everything from engaging with us in social media, sharing information that we're putting out there, even just sharing pictures and stuff. We try to post on our social media channels every day. I can't say consistently that I do that because I think I missed yesterday, but we try to do that every day. We're really looking for engagement there. We're looking for folks to engage with us in a variety of ways. So even if that's sort of advocating for us in your community organization about doing a food drive or doing anything, when we return to something that feels more normal, we've worked to try to create ways to not only allow families with young kids to volunteer. So we have a family volunteer day 4 times a year. We also have ways that we've been working to engage larger groups, right? Because oftentimes people will call and say, hey, I want my group to volunteer. Okay, how many people are in your group? 20. Okay, well, we can't have 20 people serving at dinner. There's not that much room in the kitchen. So we've really worked to find a variety of ways to engage people in a variety of different capacities. And so that's one of the things that, we really would love folks to help us with. Always food donations are helpful. Financial donations are helpful. Volunteering is essential. But we realize that those things don't always work for everybody, right? Not everybody has much money to donate. And here it only costs us about $2.75 to provide a meal. So we can tell you that even if you can only give us $5, it's going to make a difference. But some folks, that's a hurdle. That's something people have to hear from us before they believe. If you're not able, if your work schedule doesn't allow you to volunteer, people start to feel like, I think sometimes there's not a way for them to participate. But engaging with us in social media or with other community groups is a really vital way for people to be able to help us out where they already are and doing what they're already doing.
That's fabulous. And I love that because, one of the things that I'm trying to do this year is create that call to action, right? Some people are still trying to figure out, well, what can I do to help out? And you just outlined multiple ways that people can come and assist. Now, the other thing is people don't necessarily think outside the box. You've been in the community service, and that's what I like to call it, community service industry for well over 2 decades now, right?
Yep.
Offer up some advice to all of us, be it corporate America, private citizen, or government, things that maybe we haven't thought about that we can do better to help those who could use it.
One of the things that I think is essential to that question is really no matter in what way we're looking at it, right? So you sort of mentioned that question to me earlier, and sort of we were thinking and talking in the context of, the homeless camp in the park and things like that. And so one of the things, whether you're talking about our organization or community issues as a whole, one of the things that I think is important, I think is vital that people miss is really just that, first of all, what I need to know and understand is that I don't understand. And that really, I think that sort of starts to free stuff up, right? So if I can acknowledge the fact that I don't understand all of the things related to the issue about people camping in the park, I don't really understand all of the issues that lead someone to need to eat at community kitchen or continue to eat at community kitchen or whatever. And if I can accept the fact that I don't understand that, right, then that means I'm not able to put that person or those folks in a box, which means then my ability to think outside of that becomes a little freer. And the piece I would say is that at that point, it's ask the experts. I'm only an expert on about this much. But what happens to me on a regular basis is someone calls, they're doing a project or they're doing this or they want to help, whatever, and they want to do something with folks who are experiencing homelessness. And so they call me. And I am quick to say, I am not an expert on this subject. Let me tell you who is, and direct them to other folks because I understand that I don't understand. And so when folks call here and this happens, folks call and they're like, I want to help. And oftentimes the way they want to help is that they want to reinvent the wheel. They don't really realize that's what they're doing, right? Because they're not aware of all the things that are already happening. And so one of the things when you call an organization that is doing something, addressing an issue you want to help with, is that just by having a conversation and hearing what they're doing and asking, like, how can I help? You can get some of those outside the box ideas. So, when the pandemic hit, and I'm going to be a little jaded here for a minute, but when the pandemic hit in March, all of a sudden in April, I don't know if you're aware of this, but all of a sudden in April, there were a bunch of kids in the community who needed food assistance. Well, there have been people in this community, kids in this community that need food assistance 365 days a year for the entire time I've been in this community. But there were a bunch of great kind-hearted, well-meaning folks who just figured that out in April. And it felt like 2/3 of them wanted to develop a program to feed them right now. And several of them did that without talking to any of us in the community who are already doing those kinds of things. And so there was a whole lot of community energy being pulled in 30 different directions to support all these things that sort of popped up overnight. And, what we do in that situation is we sort of write it out. We're like, okay, well, if they call us, we'll talk to them about what we're doing and figure out how, maybe they can meet a niche that isn't being met. And if they don't call us, they'll be, well, now I'm there twice. They'll be gone in 2 months and we'll still be here. And so, but we did have some folks who first became aware of that issue or became very aware of that issue in April who did call us. And they're like, how can we help? And so we did things like, right, it's a pandemic, so you're not supposed to be in large groups. So we had several neighborhoods that folks that called us and were like, have a food drive. Have an in your driveway food drive. And that's what people did. Hyde Park did it a couple of times. They designated somebody's driveway. They said anytime between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m., bring food and drop it off in my driveway. And then they loaded up the truck and they brought it here, right? People don't think about doing a food drive that way, right? You do that with a group of people all bringing food to school or to your club meeting or whatever. And so I think just calling folks who do the work, you can get that sort of, how do we do this? That's where we got to developing this portioning project. So we have our Backpack Buddies program. We send food home for the weekend. What we've started to do with these large groups, right, that want to do something for us, Catalent is a prime example. A lot of people at Catalent, they want to be involved. And so we had trouble finding ways for them to get involved, but they called us and talked to us about it. And we talked through it. And what we figured out was that we could get a food list for them. They had some money to spend. They could go get the food. They could take it to their facility, which is Catalent, right? So it's clean. It's well protected. Mm-hmm. And so they were able to take up this food and create these meal kits, right? Portion out different amounts of things like soup. So they could like portion out noodles and, vegetables or whatever and put chicken bouillon and, canned chicken with it and all that stuff and put it in a nice package and put a label on it and bring it to us ready to go in our backpack program. And those are things that only happen because folks reach out and have that conversation. There's just not, we're all like this, right? I'm in my own world, I got to talk to somebody else. You got to talk about stuff if you want to think of something outside the norm.
I love that. I mean, because what you've done is, first of all, I'm an IT chick. So for me, when it's coming down to code or creating an application, I hate reinventing the wheel. I already know if I'm thinking about it, somebody else has thought about it. I'm sorry, there's nothing new under the sun. Isn't that what they always tell us? And there's nothing new under the sun. And when you're talking about things that impact humans, since humans have been here, I don't know, forever, right? There's probably somebody that's already come up with what you're working with. And I think the best takeaway that I've gotten from that is know what you don't know. And when you don't know it, go find somebody, do the research and find somebody that does know, or create relationships with people who are in the know so they can connect you with the right people. I don't always know everything. And trust me, I get a lot of messages all of the time about how do I do this? Where do I go there? Actually, some people think I am an expert. And I'm like, no, Google is my friend. I tell people all the time, I'm as smart as Google. Okay, so I love that. And I think at this point when so many people are struggling and so many people are stressing, you gave us all some nuggets today on how we can be better community warriors for our people. I want to thank you and Monroe County Community Kitchen for everything that you guys are doing in the community. So now I put the link up. But is there anything new, any events that you guys have coming up, even though we're in, social distancing aspect that people can be aware of, that if they saw you tonight, they saw this show and they want to be down with you tomorrow? Do you have any events coming up that people should need to know about?
We don't have any real events coming up right now. We've been sort of talking about that and ways to do some things virtually. One of the things that's going to start happening that I think is kind of cool is that we're going to start doing some YouTube videos on our social media, which I think is going to loosely at the beginning at least be titled Baking with the Board.
Okay.
Because we have some chefs on our board. And so one of the very first things I can tell you is Chef Seth Elger's Mexican hot chocolate pudding recipe and video of him making that, is going to be up. It's something that he thinks would be a great Valentine's Day dessert for folks, since a lot of folks aren't eating out. So we're going to have, I think, some rum bread pudding coming down the pike here real quick, too. Cardinal Spirits is actually doing, till the end of this week, a specialty drink that benefits the kitchen. It's Rockaway Beach, and it's their spiced rum and some pineapple juice, and it's really good. Mine's almost gone at my house, but when you do that, then you have some leftover rum. So one of our board members is going to, use the leftover rum and do like a rum bread pudding video. So that's going to be a thing that I think is pretty cool. At Christmas, we did a holiday cookie sale. Our goal was to sell 100 dozen cookies, and we sold over 200 dozen cookies. It was awesome. The board and I was basically scooping, but the board, we got together, which we hadn't done, right, since March. We got together in the kitchen here and baked cookies for 2 nights and then boxed them up and, prettied them up. And so, I think the best thing is to watch our social media for things that will be upcoming. We're sort of waiting right now to see. We have done virtual brunch before, where we put, all the recipes up and videos of making things and tell you how to do it. But we're sort of waiting to see what the next few months looks like before we know what further events we'll do.
Okay. Well, and that's understandable because we want to make sure that we're safe, and people who need to get vaccinated can get vaccinated. There's so much we don't want. You and I were talking before the show. We're so ready to go, but we still are in the middle of this pandemic, and we want to make sure that we're doing things safely and sound. This was a joy because you're a great interview. I just got to throw that out there. You're an amazing interview, and you were able to share with us some things about Monroe Community Kitchen that I obviously was not aware of because I don't live in the community. But hopefully, people around the state will maybe get in touch with their county's community kitchen, right, and figure out how they can help out if they know that food insecurity is a thing. Well, they should know because we just told you, that food insecurity is a thing, and they can give out some of their time, their energy, their money, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and give a parting shot about Community Kitchen and that 30-second elevator speech to get people involved and motivated to be a part of it.
One of the things that's true here is that it costs $2.75 to provide a meal. Over 50% of the meals that we provide are going to go to kids. So it's not only just everybody has a right to eat. That's one of our mission, vision, philosophy, pieces is that everyone has a right to eat, has a right to access nutritious food that they need. So even if that doesn't float your boat, if you're a bottom line person, the truth is there, the research is there. Feeding kids, making sure that they have what they need nutritionally helps them develop on target. It helps them succeed in school. It helps them stay out of the criminal justice system and be employed members of society in the future. So for $2.75, we can help provide that to someone. So it doesn't matter if you can give us $5 or $500. It is all important to us here. Donor pyramids are supposed to look like this, where you got, a certain number of big gifts and blah, 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 blah. Ours is always flat because we got a whole lot of people giving us a little bit of money. And we are very aware of the fact that that's how the world goes around. It takes everybody. It doesn't matter your ability level financially or physically in the kitchen. We can adapt to a variety of things. And so there's one of the things I love most about us here is just the variety of people who would never intersect somewhere else. So if you're looking for a place to volunteer, or if you just got some money you need to let go of, or you're going to go to the grocery store every week anyway, and you want to pick up a couple extra things and drop it off here, all of those ways are essential for us.
That is so awesome. Thank you so very much for joining us. I know that, I do a political show, but I'm trying to make sure that I stayed apolitical tonight because it is important to share information about community service all over our state without jeopardizing that. Y'all, Monroe Community Kitchen, get involved. Don't sit around and pretend like you don't know that that there's food insecurity in Bloomington. I know y'all, that's a blue dot down there. Y'all be like, we the best. But there's issues in every community, and here is an opportunity for you to get involved and help out kids develop their minds, right? Older folks to not have to choose between medication and a meal. They can get their medication and get a meal, right? I love it. Okay. So next week, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm actually still hanging out in Monroe County next week. I know, isn't it crazy? I'm still going to hang out in Monroe County. Next week, I am joining the city of Bloomington for their Black History Month program. But they've given me permission to live stream it on my page. So it won't be a Turn Left event. It will definitely be a City of Bloomington event. But I'm going to live stream it so that you guys can be a part of the Black History Month celebration that is an annual event for Bloomington. This is not a new thing. This is something they do. Their organizers get together, their city organizers get together, and they put together this event. It is an honor to be asked to be a part of this panel. There's a couple of doctors on this panel. And I'm like, y'all got me? Why, me? Oh, you wanted to make sure that, the everyday person can listen in. But listen, join me next week. Like I said, it won't be a Turn Left with me doing interviews. Somebody will actually be interviewing me and asking me questions about our impact as African Americans in the community and how we can do more. So make sure you join. And the week after that, I told y'all I got some gangster coming. I got some straight up gangster coming on Turn Left. Another not-for-profit organization who is doing amazing work, not just in the state of Indiana, but all over the nation. I am going to have Moms Demand Action right here on Turn Left. You see the hashtag, it says Team Action on there. I'm going to have Moms Demand Action on February the 11th. So I've got a few shows coming. We got some ideas for the year, but really this is a year to build up our communities, build up our pride in who we are as Hoosiers. We don't have any elections, but that does not mean it's an off year. We got lots of work to do. Y'all, thank you, Miss Vicki and Monroe Community Kitchen for joining us today. I'm Indiana's own Dana Black. I will catch y'all next week as a guest myself. I'll holler at y'all later.